Brilliant brassicas.
Not boiled cabbage.
I'm Vanessa Scott.
And I'm Alan Gray. Welcome to Get Gardening. Now, Ness, we've got here a box of brilliant brassicas. Brassicas, I mean, that includes plants like swede as well, which are root crops, but we've got leaves primarily. So talk us through what you've got here.
Well, I absolutely love, this is a real jewel box, isn't it? Of
Yep.
kind of greens and purples. And so what we've got is we've got some wild garlic in there, which isn't a brassica.
That's not a brassica, but that's something worth mentioning because this is something that you can forage for yourself, and you normally find it in bluebell woods and places like that. You actually use the leaves and the stems and the flowers of this. You don't use the bulb as you do in traditional garlic. You just want that unctuous kind of, I don't know, flavour, taste, smell. It's everything mixed up together.
And I've got purple sprouting broccoli, and it would seem that we cook this fairly similarly, don't we?
We do, yes, we do.
I must admit, I don't like it boiled in lots of water, and I don't actually like it steamed in a steamer. I think you need some butter or some oil with it to actually give it the flavour.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And the tenderness comes from the water. So a tiny amount of water in a pan with some oil or some butter, enough water so the oil doesn't catch.
Yep.
And then the plant, what you need to do is make sure this is actually cooked through the stem, and it's just the most delicious vegetable.
If you want to leave it whole, you want to leave that stem whole like that, one of the little tips that I do is I scrunch up a piece of foil, lay it in the corner in the edge of the saucepan, and make sure the bottoms are in water, but the heads are above, so they cook in the steam and the stems actually cook in the water.
Yeah, a bit like you'd think about asparagus.
Yeah, because the reason for that is because the tips are much more tender than the base of the stem.
They are.
And the same goes with asparagus. It is the tip, the bud.
Now, I love these also cooked as a fritter. So if you actually cook them off, you can blitz them in a food processor, add a bit of yogurt, a bit of flour, something like parsley or dill would be great, and just fry them off as little kind of pancakes.
So this all gets mixed into a batter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you just a dollop of that in a pan.
And you can process it in a food processor however much you want. So you could end up with it being fairly fine, but I don't see any point in that. It's nice to actually do it so you can still see the sort of florets.
I think it's nice to make it so it's recognisable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just a bit of flour, an egg, some yogurt, and you've got a great little fritter that you could put smoked salmon or something like that on. We've also got in here, I think this is my favourite, Cavalo.
Well, it's certainly one of the most glamorous leaves in the garden, isn't it? Because just look at that texture, that lovely indentations.
It's rather loved by the pigeons.
It is loved by the pigeons. And this is what do you call this?
Cavalo Nero.
Cavalo Nero. In some places it's known as Nero de Toscana, and in France it's chou palmier, which means palm cabbage. But it's a kind of brassica that you can grow in your garden. It's almost too pretty to pick, so you can grow it with flowers. It just looks lovely.
And you can see why it's called palm, can't you?
Yes.
It's just lovely. This is also nice, just crisped in the oven with some oil and some salt. Maybe if you've got some flavoured oil, like some garlic oil or some chili oil, that just gives it an extra dimension. But it would cook very quickly, 5-10 minutes max, and you get these lovely crispy leaves.
Well, that's wonderful. Actually, you touched on something there. Flavoured oils, that's something that, I mean, you can either make your own or you can buy them.
Very easy.
But there's an infinite variety today, and they've just subtly changed the taste, so you're not having the same thing every day.
I'll tell you what's really, really nice. If you get the rind of a parmesan that you can't do anything with, too tough to eat, and just pop that into some oil, either some rapeseed oil or some olive oil, and you get that lovely parmesan flavour through the oil. So
the Italians know a thing or two, don't they?
They do.
Parmigiano cheese, wonderful. This is another very pretty kale. I think this one's probably called Red Boar. It's got really, really frilly leaves and a delicious blackcurrant purple. And if you just open it up and look Look at that lovely purple midrib to those leaves. It's absolutely beautiful to look at.
And this again, I like crisped, works really, really well. And I love flans that are full of filling, not full of custard. And this makes a really, really good accompaniment to a flan. So if you've got your flavours in, maybe you've made a salmon dish, maybe you've made bacon or ham or something like that. But don't forget the greens, because they really act as a great foil to meat or fish. And it's a lot better than just having egg sitting next to your filling. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, I think the thing is actually cooking these in the oven until they get a kind of crispiness. Don't eat them on their own, but as an accompaniment to all your other dishes. I mean, it brings the vegetable world into a whole new meaning, I think. I love the colour of these. The leaves on this cabbage, which is...
January King.
Is it one of your favourites?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's just so beautiful. Like you say, it's got all that kind of purple veining and the green.
Exactly.
Nature knows how to put colour together, doesn't it?
Yep. Even if I'm still learning.
Me too.
But I think the wonderful thing is the colder the weather becomes, the more purple this hue comes on the cabbage. And it is a very pretty cabbage. But it's not just ornamental, it's for eating as well, isn't it? In lots of ways.
And it is good cooked as an accompanying vegetable, because you can cook it, steam it, do add some lovely flavour to it, like real butter. I know everybody talks about, reduce fat, but we do need fat in our diet.
Yeah.
I think we've gone completely crazy trying to cut it totally out.
Well, I think that's wrong, because, I mean, we do, as you say, we need fat, but there are good fats and there are bad fats.
Yeah.
So, I mean, err on the side of caution when you're using butter, I suppose.
Yeah.
But butter does give that wonderful flavour.
It does. And things like caraway seeds, think of all the other things that you can flavour things with, so they're not just boiled vegetables or steamed vegetables. You've got some interest.
I mean,
in
sometimes if you're just having, shall we say, a lamb stew, I mean, just a plain piece of boiled cabbage, because you've got all the lovely flavours from the juices of your stew to accompany it. So you don't need to overdress the cabbage. But if you're having a menu, say just a pork chop, and there's not a lot of juice with a pork chop, and you perhaps need to put more flavour into the cabbage and to the brassicas. So beautiful brassicas, just learn how to use them. And this lady is a great teacher.